In this video, I will explain the concept of fuzzy offsetting and generic interaction component. This is an extension of fuzzy aiming, and it allows you to configure how fuzzy aiming determines the intent of your player and your interactable. If we take a look at these weirdly shaped interactables, this blueprint has its pivot point at the base of this cube, and if you interact with it, it changes color. Now, this blueprint has been fuzzy offsetted so that its sphere is the main focal point of fuzzy aiming. If I look down at the ground here, you'll see that even though I'm looking at this, like the main rectangular and cube part of this component, if I move my mouse slightly, now even though I'm still aiming very close to the rectangular bit of this interactable, I am focusing on the interactable to the left. And that's because this red dot, this fuzzy aiming logic, is determining that I am closer to the center of the sphere, which is where my fuzzy offset is, rather than the pivot point of this blueprint. This means that if I get close to here, all my interactable aiming with this thing will be based on, again, the center of the sphere. So even though I'm very close to the rectangular bit here, and unless I'm aiming directly at it, this interactable here will be focused because my red dot is closer to this center of this sphere rather than the center of this sphere. And this is set up really easily in Blueprint. You have your interactable, and this is a pretty generic interactable. All it does is changes color. But one thing we have done here is that we've overridden the function getInteractionCenterPoint. And normally this function by default returns 0, 0, 0, returns nothing. But because we have it now returning a world location of a scene component in the center of the sphere, fuzzy aiming will now prioritize this part of this interactable for its interaction checks. And you can add this to any blueprint. If you wanted to add it to the spinning cube, for example, all you would need to do is add a scene component, put it somewhere, and on getInteractionCenterPoint, just take the world location of the scene component. Sorry, that's set. Get world location. And now this scene component here will be the center of all the fuzzy aiming calculations. Now this works really well with small interactables, such as the reusable button provided to you. You'll see that in this button here, there is no scene component for the interaction center point. Instead, I'm getting the actor's location, and I'm manually just adding an offset here of 4 units, which is the same thing as adding a scene component and moving it up 4 units and returning that. And this is so fuzzy aiming puts more of a focus on the round part of this button rather than the stem. So you do not need to use a scene component as long as you're returning a world location of some kind. But the easiest way is just to add a scene component and then return that world location. And then fuzzy aiming will then prioritize that point as the intent focus of your interactable. Hopefully that makes sense. Thank you for watching.